Hi everybody, this is Gary Fong, and this right here is the eagerly awaited Sony A7 Mark II. Seems like just yesterday they announced it, and it is now ready for production. It's the full-frame camera. It's the next evolution of the Sony constantly evolving A7 series, which was the A7. Then they came up with the A7R, which is 36 megapixel, then A7S, which is the one that went up to 409,000 ISO, 12 megapixel, output to 4K video. And now this guy, the A7 II, which is the A7, but it's got quite a few innovations on it, the most notable of which is the 5-way image stabilization, which Sony claims increases the steadiness by 4 stops. So we're actually going to test that against my existing A7, and then I'm going to put the two together and show you some of the differences. Now, what I've read in the literature about the A7 II is that it has a faster startup time, a quieter shutter, 30% faster autofocus, of course the image stabilization that will give you 4 stops of hand-holding stillness. And then we're going to test the ISO differences at high ISOs to see what the files look like. And then I'm just going to go ahead and upload those actual files so you guys can dissect them. I'm safe to do that because this is the actual production model. The other ones that have been out were different levels of testing models. This one is the actual good to go, ready for the store, serial number, not hand wired, everything. So let's go ahead and open the box. Here is the eagerly anticipated A7 II. And a couple of things in here that are new that I saw right away was the new power adapter. It looks very much like an iPad, iPhone type of adapter where you basically put in your USB micro into this and plug it into a wall. And of course, what's nice about it is you happen to have a cell phone laying around, then you can use that charger on this camera, which is really cool. One of the things I noticed as soon as I got it was that you can't use the vertical grip adapter that is current. That's the one that's compatible with all the other A7s, like the A7S and R, and the regular A7 will not be compatible with the vertical grip adapter. So if you have one of those, I guess you'd have to wait until they come up with another one. So what I have here is the old A7 and the new A7 II. Well, the first thing you can really feel is the new extended grip. The new extended grip is much handier because it goes deeper into your hand. It feels a lot more secure. That's the first thing that I notice about this. It doesn't feel heavier like a lot of people say. I don't have a scale, but I can't really tell. But of course, my right arm is probably stronger than the left. The other things that are on it are that it has, right away that I notice, it has more function buttons, which I think is a great thing. It has now 4 function buttons, whereas this one has 3. What I like about the new one is that it has 2 function buttons, but they're both on the top. And so when we get into the premium video where we're going to spend, the next week actually making you a tutorial of exactly how to shoot this thing, what all the different settings do, we'll get into the customization features of this camera. But I do like that there's 2 custom buttons up top, because then I can reprogram them for whatever I would need. So now what they've done is they've put the shutter forward so it feels like you have a vertical grip even though there's not one on it. In other words, the old way it had the shutter right on the body itself. Now it's on the handle, so it's a lot more ergonomically handy because your finger wants to go there, especially if you're holding it with a steadier grip. So that's an evolution I'm sure they're going to put in all of the upcoming A7 series cameras, which they seem to update every 16 minutes. The other thing too now is that the camera has kind of a 45-degree angle shelf for the different menu buttons and the custom button up on top and the play button, which is kind of neat because ergonomically your thumb wants to be at that angle. It doesn't want to go flat, it wants to be at that angle. So now the screen articulates about the same. You can see from the bottom it's a wider base, and it still doesn't articulate up and back at you, which would have been nice. nor does it swing around. So when you're shooting your selfies or something like that, that's still not an innovation that they have added to this. Okay, so that is about it for the controls. Again, when you look here, you have the C1 and the C2 buttons on top. So now let's see how these guys shoot. And we're going to do side-by-side comparisons of them. First thing that I want to do is I want to show you the startup time. So they said that the startup time is much faster on this guy. So we're going to turn them both on at the same time and see which one goes on quicker. By the way, this one has the newest firmware, and on the new firmware they said that they improved the startup time also. Startup time is pretty important, especially when the camera goes to sleep, and then all of a sudden you see Elvis coming out of a spacecraft, and you want to take the picture, but your camera hasn't waken up yet. So let's see if we have that critical difference in speed. What happened? And on. I don't know. A tiny bit faster. It's not like it's massively faster. Okay, now let's listen to the shutter sound. Let's just put it up to my microphone and see if we can hear a big difference in sound. Okay, that's one. Here's the other. This is the new one, and this is the old one. I don't know. They seem identical to me, so I can't really see too much of a difference on that. So now we're going to test the autofocus between the two, and what I'm going to do is put it on autofocus continuous with object tracking and see how much faster this one is. On top of that, I'm going to put it on continuous high, which would be the motor drive. And that's one thing about the A7 that I really wasn't so super crazy about, which is another reason why I use the A7 Mark II a lot, is because this one doesn't, the old A7 didn't really have that much of a fast drive, and another reason why I use the A6000 so much. So I've got my, my train track here, and we're going to let this thing follow the train around, and we'll just see how it does. So I'm going to do the focus tracking right here, then I'll just go ahead and recrop it. So as you can see right here, what's happening is you see a little square that's on the train itself. Now I'm going to turn the train on, and this is one thing that I really like about this type of photography, is that it will follow an object around without you having to move the joystick or focus and recrop. So as you can see right here, it's following the train around. And I'll just go ahead and hit the motor drive, and you can see we're firing in motor, okay? Okay, so let me do a lock on autofocus right there. Okay, so you see now I've told it this is the guy we want, okay? And so let me just lock my tripod down. I'm going to turn on this guy. Okay, go train. And then, well, it lost my guy. So I'm going to I'll do this now. And this is how we would really do it in real life, is like that, okay? So once we got out of that area, it's actually that little center area, it's not tracking anymore, see? So it's trying to find it. I'll just do it again. This is how we would really do it in real life. And actually in this regard, the A6000 is better. I've used the A6000 and the 77 Mark II for things like this, that things are moving around. Yeah, so I can't really seem to grab it. Huh. Let's try again. And you know, like at this point here, we've kind of lost the action. So I'm going to put it on. Now it's trying to find it on the focus lock, and it's, wait, where's my train? So as you can see on the other one, it was quite a bit better. And then, yeah, it's quite a bit confused. So on that part right there, this was really not an action camera. The A7, the old A7. Yep, can't do it. Okay, so that's the difference between the two, is the other one has a much faster continuous drive and then much improved object tracking on the autofocus. So this is the old A7, and just to be fair, I'm going to do this focus lock again just to show you that it works decent in most situations. It didn't when the train was rolling around, but when I'm moving my hand around, it works fine. See, it's just gone ahead and, well, it actually just skipped right there. Oops, there it goes skipping again. Let's try it off the frame. Yeah, so it does kind of follow it off. Yeah, it follows it off. Let's see if it recaptures. Nope. The A6000, oddly enough, will recapture that object if I go off the screen and then come back. But this one's a considerable lag time compared to what you'll see with the A7 II. Okay, so let's go to Steady Shot, and we'll go to Camera Settings, and oh, you'll notice Steady Shot is off. And when I go, it says invalid with this lens. Well, this lens doesn't have Steady Shot. It doesn't have the IS built into it. This is a Zeiss 55 f1.8. So it won't allow you to do it. And what you'll see in a second with the Mark II is that it will allow you to do it, and it'll allow you to do it with any lens that you put on it, because the stabilization is inside the body itself. And again, as you've probably read, it's 5-way stabilization. So let's just go ahead here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this thing. We're in the same lighting situation, right? So I'm going to take this thing all the way down to, I don't know, 1/4 of a second. Okay. And I'm going to lock on this right there. And let's see how we do. Just going to hand hold. Okay. So we'll go in tight here. Take a look. Oh yeah, nice amount of blurriness. Okay, because that's 1/4 of a second. What do you want? You know? I mean, that's 1/4 of a second. Try that again. I'm going to try to hold it real still. Okay, let's see what happens. And a lot of that, actually, that vibration is the, the shutter shake and everything like that. So we'll just go ahead and zoom in here, and we'll show you that file. And again, okay, so this is 1/4 of a second at f2 ISO 80, okay? Okay, so on this camera, I'm going to go to Menu, Steady Shot. Look at that, it's on. And then here's an interesting thing, too. You can go to Steady Shot settings and tell it adjust automatically for your focal length, or if you want to go to manual, you can tell it what focal length you have on here. So I'm actually going to do the manual. See, it's a 55mm lens, and that makes sense, right? Because it has to understand how much there is in terms of yaw and pitch and turn and everything like that, okay? So we're going to try to get this guy down to 1/4 of a second, just like the other one. Okay, so it's now at 1/4 of a second. Here's another thing too, by the way, and see, this focus lock thing is something that I count on quite a bit. And it does, there's no center grid there, right? So it does quite a nice job of following around. But now we're at 1/4 of a second at f2.5, 1/4 of a second handheld. Let's see how this does. And we'll go play, and we're going to come in real tight. And look at the difference here. Let's find out where we can get it sharp. Okay, so that was 1/4 of a second. Let's take it down to 1/8 of a second, maybe. So we'll just try it there, 1/8 of a second, and we'll lock it. One of my favorite tools is that object lock thing. Okay, and then let's take a look at the image. So I'm going to zoom in real tight here. And there's that. Okay, so now, to be fair, I'm going to do the exact same thing, 1/8 of a second at f2.5 on the other camera. Okay, so now, here we are again on the old one, and it was 1/4 of a second. The other one was 1/4 of a second, but we took it up to 1/8 of a second, okay? So let's go in tight here, and focus lock on that, and oh, that's a really kind of a nutty thing. See how it just comes and goes and lets go like that? Okay, hold on. Okay, let's take a look. 1/8 of a second. Let's come in tight. And you see it's pretty blurry there. Let's try it again. 1/8 of a second. And go in tight. This is no steady shot. So you see you've got yourself quite a bit of shake here. Now we're going to do a demonstration of the 5-axis steady shot, which is all the rage about rage about this camera. And so we'll go to steady shot, and it's on now. So I'm in manual, and I've got it down to 1/8 of a second. And we'll get that in focus, and that is 1/8 of a second with steady shot off. Let's put it back on again. here, put it back on. Aiming for that guy, and let's see how clear we can get that to look. So, and that is with steady shot on. Okay, now let's try the regular A7 without the A7 II. So now, same thing, we're going to be in manual. I'm going to take it down to 1/8 of a second. And take a shot like that and hit play. And this is the old A7. That is 1/8 of a second. So you can see it's quite a dramatic difference between the two. So that's the difference between the A7 and the A7 II. The A7 II with a steady shot looks like this. And the A7 at 1/8 of a second looks like this. Sony claims that they have a 4-stop difference between the two. I haven't really sat down and tested the stops. And of course, the amount of jiggle that a person has varies from shot to shot. Like you could hold it steadier in one shot to the next. So without a lab setup of a known amount of vibration, you wouldn't really be able to tell if it was 4 stops or 3 stops or 2. But that's what they claim in their publishing. And all I know is that at 1/8 of a second with a 55mm lens, you're not really going to get a good shot unless you really steady your body and you know how to do this. Okay, so that is a real quick demonstration of the differences between the A7 II and the A7. We, as we always do on GaryFong.com, will be doing an intense video showing how to unlock the power of your A7 Mark II by going through every single menu item and showing what each of the features does, especially on how to customize your camera for different uses if you're shooting action or panoramas or whatever. We'll break this down for you so that you don't have to do all of the research. We also do have a video on the A7, an intense video, which is unleashing the power of your A7. So once this comes out, if you get an A7 Mark II, rest assured that you'll have a lot of information to instantly be able to take power and grasp all of the controls that this camera has to offer. Okay, so that was just a little teaser of how we research and test our cameras. So make sure to subscribe to this channel and also to visit GaryFong.com for the finest in photographic education. Thanks for watching.